Hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation of Aptora software. My name is Rich Browning, and today we're going to cover a topic, job costing, that is very much talked about with respect to Total Office Manager for both clients, existing users, as well as prospects, those looking at Total Office Manager for their solution for their company. And job costing is very important. In many of the conversations that we have with prospects and clients, job costing seems to be very convoluted, and it's not really that difficult in Total Office Manager, and so that's the reason for today's presentation. We want to kind of just take you through job costing very quickly, very briefly, and explain how it works and how you might be able to use it to more effectively manage your business as well as your jobs. So let's move over to Total Office Manager. I have an instance running here in the background. And let's get some general information about job costing in Total Office Manager. First of all, job costing is simply keeping track of every dollar you spend to complete a job and every dollar you receive for completing it. So this allows you to see total revenue and total expenses, allowing you to know which jobs are profitable and which are losing you money. Our job costing feature was specifically designed for service-based businesses and new construction-oriented businesses. Job costing, again, is very informative to your company, and it's very easy to use with Total Office Manager. So how does it actually work? Well, job costing is integrated everywhere throughout Total Office Manager, and you'll start by setting up one or more customer jobs, and we'll get into that later, and then associate payments, expenses, and other various job-related transactions with that job. But to begin, let's go ahead and set our payroll preferences. So we'll go up here to our taskbar and open up our preferences. We will then move down to payroll, and we will select the payroll preferences, which is a company preference. Looks like I opened the schedule board instead of preferences. Let me go and click on preferences here. All right, there we go. And we'll come down, find our way to payroll. Now again, this is a company preference, and so if you'll follow me, you'll see we want to allocate payroll liabilities to job costing, and we want to make sure we have a selection here. So typically what you'd want to expect here is to treat this as expenses, or as I have selected here in this database, to treat it as cost of goods sold, or COGS. So we will make that selection and choose the close option. Now, the next thing we want to do is go and set up our customers. Whenever we have a customer, we want to make sure that they are set up correctly. Most of you probably know how to set up customers, or you will learn that through your training with Aptora. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but let's go ahead and just open an existing customer here in this database. So we'll go over to 24-Hour Fitness and choose to edit that customer. And we want to make sure we focus and go to the Jobs tab, the Job Details tab, and we want to look at additional overhead. Let's move over to that job info, and down here at the bottom you'll see additional overhead, and we can assign overhead as a percentage of the final amount, and or we can assign overhead as a dollar amount. So all that's talking about, let's actually spend some time covering that. In the customer job form here, as you see the job info tab, there is an option called additional overhead. The assign overhead as percentage of final amount option allows you to add overhead to your job costing report. And this report only, the job costing report, as a percentage of the amount the job is finally sold for. So for example, you could add 20% to cover miscellaneous overhead like rent or insurance that was not otherwise allocated to the job. The other option that we see here, the assign overhead as a dollar amount option, does the same thing, only the amount you enter is a dollar amount, and that amount stays the same or fixed no matter what the job ends up selling for. This feature makes it possible to quote-unquote pick up any other overhead that may not have otherwise been associated with the job. Examples may include rent, general insurance, and so forth. Typically, it would be difficult to divide this check out to all of your jobs. You might even use this feature to help pay your commission-based salespeople. Again, for example, you could tell them they get 50% of the net profit. That's net profit on every job, and you will assign 35% overhead to each job. So using that example, this overhead number comes from your income statement and could be adjusted each month or each quarter. Now let's move on to talk about adding revenue, COGS, and expenses to a job. Now this part is simple and automatic with Total Office Manager. You will basically just do everyday accounting and Total Office Manager will do the rest. Total Office Manager will give you an opportunity to associate a job with all income and expenses everywhere in the software. Even such things as inventory adjustments and adjusting journal entries can be attributed to a job. So let's talk about some examples. Each time you create an invoice or a sale, you will select the job you just set up or any jobs that are in your list that have been set up for job costing. Total Office Manager will automatically keep track of the revenue, sales, and any cost of goods sold, COGS, that you have for inventory items sold. When you receive items, enter a bill, or write checks, you may select jobs on a line-by-line basis, and Total Office Manager will track these items for you. Through the Reimbursables feature, Total Office Manager will remind you to add these items to your invoice. And once they become part of the invoice, the COGS will be included in job costing. When you enter expenses, you may select jobs on a line-by-line basis. Total Office Manager will track these expenses for you. Expenses are automatically and immediately added to job costing. So let's take a look at some of these forms that were discussed and how we can use these. We'll close out our customer form and our customer job list, and let's go ahead and take a look at an invoice. So when we open the invoice form, we will again want to select the appropriate customer that is set up for job costing. So we would select that customer, 24-Hour Fitness, and then we would go ahead in this case and add items to our job. So we've already got a diagnostic fee that's automatically added to every invoice form. That's another feature that you can set up with Total Office Manager. And I'm just going to select some more items. Now automatically all of this is going to flow to job costing. And why is that? Well, because we have selected our customer job that is set up for job costing. So that of course is very simple and understandable. Now let's go ahead and move over to inventory adjustments. So we'll come over to our inventory adjustment form. There's different ways that we can do this. You'll see some of the different forms that we have available. I'm going to open the top form for inventory review and adjust. All right, so here's our inventory review and adjustment form, and we can select our appropriate accounts up here, and you'll notice that we can select a customer. So if we were to select a customer and move inventory here, we would be affecting job costing. All right, now let's come over to vendors and look at bills. So entering bills. Now this would be the same for item receipts. So once you receive items, that would also apply to POs before the step before item receipts. You can also select customers or jobs on those purchase orders as well. So here we'll go ahead and select our vendor, and no, we don't want to recall the last transaction. You'll notice I am in the items tab right now, and you'll see an item grid below. So this would be just the same as an invoice on the AR side. We're just going to add some items here, and you'll notice that as we add items, we have the ability to select customers or jobs. So again, once we save and close this form, and this would be true with item receipts as well, all of this information goes to job costing, and you can do this on a line-by-line item basis. Now as we move over to the expenses tab, here we can select accounts. So we can select the appropriate accounts where we want to affect job costing. So very simple, very easy. We do all of the same things that we would normally do. The only thing that we would have to pay attention to affect job costing is simply selecting a customer or a job on each one of those forms. One form that we did not get to that I just remembered was adjusting journal entries. So let's go down and find our journal entry form in the software. So here again we would select the appropriate account. This is a chart of account. And then over on the side, we have the ability to select our customer. We can even on the adjusting journal entry form select a work order or a PO. So very handy job costing features in Total Office Manager. So the next step I guess we could talk about would be to go ahead and add payroll to job costing. Well, how do we do that? Well, it's really quite simple. We would enter our timesheets just like we would anything else. So we'll go to Employees and Timesheets and Time Tracking. Now this form's just like all of the other ones that we've looked at so far, in that you have the opportunity to select a customer or a job on every line of your timesheets for your employees. So let's talk some more about this. When you prepare timesheets, you have the opportunity to select a customer job, and you do this on a line item basis per day. That's for hourly employees. What about salaried employees? Well, if you wish to associate part of a salaried employee's payroll to a job, you still must use the timesheet form. Just enter that employee, pick the correct job, and enter their hours. Total Office Manager will divide their weekly salary by 40 and multiply the number of hours you enter. When you use the timesheet for a salaried employee, you are not creating additional payroll for them. That's very important to note. The timesheet simply tells Total Office Manager where to allocate their salaried payroll. You'll see what we're talking about when you open the timesheet. As we can see here, you access timesheets again by clicking Employees, Timesheet, Time Tracking. So you can do that again for hourly employees, and more importantly, or what may not be known, is you can also do that for salary employees. It works the same way for both. Now you do have several reports that will show you details about your jobs. These include reports such as job costing, income statement by customer job, the sales invoice credit estimate details, and transaction details by account reports. All of those reports will show you important information relative to job costing and data that you're entering into the software. Now the job costing report is the most common of all job costing related reports. This report includes all of the setup details of the job as well as the profitability of the job. So let's go ahead and find this report to take a look. To find this report, no, I don't want to save my changes. Let's go to Reports, and we will move down to Customers and Jobs, or Contacts and Jobs, and then Job Costing. Here we will set our report criteria, what we want to see. Let's go ahead and select our customer that we set up. We'll select our date range, any sort options that we want, as well as any additional report options. I've just checked them all. And here is an example of that job costing report. So we have history of transactions that we can see here, which will show us the items, as well as the quantity, the price each, and the price total. So we can see the invoice as well, what number, what job, of course, we're looking at. We selected that. So here we can see a lot of information, even departmental information, about job costing related to this particular report. Now, one of our other great reports, and probably one of the more popular ones as well, would be our job costing overview report. So let's go ahead and look at that. Now imagine as we're looking at this report, again, I'm not going to go through and create a number of transactions and show each one of these, because I believe you'll learn that through training, or you already know how to do those things, but some may not have known how to set up job costing and how it's used in Total Office Manager. Here in our job costing overview report form, we want to select our filter criteria. I'm selecting for everything under 24-hour fitness corporate office, all of their sub-jobs. So here up at the top of this report, we will have just some basic information about the job, their billing and work address information, and then we'll also see alerts and warnings, such as 6 open purchase orders. Remember I said also count towards job costing because you can select a customer or job there. Now, as you may or may not know, purchase orders will not affect any accounting in the software, but you will be able to view that information, such as 6 open purchase orders with 12 items not received, on the job costing overview report and other subsequent reports. We can also see there are 244 reimbursable items, So again, if you're using the reimbursable items features in Total Office Manager, you also have the ability to job cost with that as well. Here, timesheet hours, we can see all of the timesheets that were allocated to this job. And then our summary of transactions. Total income from sales and invoices, less credits and refunds, labor costs, equipment, parts and materials, subcontractors, COGS with no type assigned, expenses, our labor burden, and use tax. Now this is another great way to get your net profit. Everybody seems to be, when we have these conversations, fixed on gross profit. And a lot of times that's because other accounting software programs and applications don't actually give you the net profit. And that's really where you're making money. Gross profit is just how much revenue we got, but that doesn't take into account all of the expenses and COGS that go into that. Net profit is what we actually made on this job. All right, now let's steer away from these and we'll talk a little bit about one other aspect before we get some frequently asked questions, and that is chart of accounts. So one thing we will also have to pay attention to and select with regards to job costing would be our chart of accounts. So here, let's go find a COGS account like inventory. We'll choose to edit this particular account. Chart of accounts for job costing, we're going to select the inventory account that I have here. This is a COGS account. So I have this opened. You'll notice that there is a field here on this form called job costing type. Now this is how you specify where the data is going to appear on forms such as the job costing overview report. And these options are hard-coded in the software, so you have the option to select payroll and labor only, parts and material, serialized inventory, or subcontractor. And you make the appropriate selection based on your setup, and you will have accounts most likely for each one of these. And that way, when you make those transactions to those accounts, they will show up on your job costing overview report and other subsequent reports. All right, so before we conclude our video today on job costing, just want to mention a few tips relative to this topic, such as the cost of equipment and materials does not become part of job costing until an invoice is created. So sales revenue does not become part of job costing until you create an invoice. Also, purchase orders and estimates are not displayed on the main job costing report shown on the transaction list, but do not have an effect on the totals. This is because these are what accountants call non-posting transactions. Next, receive items and bills are included in the job costing transaction list but do not affect the job costing report, the main report. When an invoice is created, the job costing report is then affected. In other words, a sale actually must take place before the job costing report totals are affected. This prevents costs from being doubled when sales are created. Make sense? The next, the expense tab on bills and checks, for example, immediately affects job costing and do not need to be included on an invoice. Also, non-inventory items do not affect the main job cost report unless this item is purchased for and sold to a specific customer job. That particular option on the item form is checked. Until this box is checked, there is no COGS account selection. So be sure to read the help topic non-inventory part. You can find that by going to Help in Total Office Manager and selecting Index, or you may also select F1 on your keyboard to open the Help Topics section, and you can go in and read more information about non-inventory parts. Finally, service items do not affect the main job cost report unless this item is performed by a subcontractor, owner, or partner option is checked on that item form. Until this box is checked, there is no COGS account selection. So just those final two items, let's go take a look at some item forms so we can see exactly what that checkbox is referring to. Here is a non-inventory part. You'll see that as a specific type of item. So we'll double click on that item to open it. And here on the, I believe it's the accounting tab, you will notice there's a checkbox up under the name number for that item that says this item is purchased for and sold to a specific customer job. So that's non-inventory parts. Let's look at a service item. Here we have one just below. Double click to open that. And on service items, you also have the "This service is performed by a subcontractor, owner, or partner" checkbox. So you want to make sure on service items that you make that checkbox selection. And again, for more helps, you can feel free to visit our help topics within the software where you'll find more information. Well, we thank you for watching, and if you have questions about job costing, feel free to give us a call. Thank you, and have a great day.